And so why don't you start with why you were motivated or inspired to kind of get started on a path of moving into the cybersecurity industry, because that's not where you started your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did start my career in retail. That's where I started, along with a lot of people start there. And when it comes to like, I don't really want to say monotonous because it's not monotonous. It's just very repetitive
Routine.
type work environment. Yeah, very routine work environment. I just couldn't find a fit in that area. So I really wanted to find something that I can be challenged with on a daily basis, things that change constantly. And I thought IT just as an overarching concept was really interesting. So I made my first move into what I was really into when I was younger, which was video game development. I actually went to college for video game development for 3.5 years, and I got my bachelor's of science in that.
And where
And
did you
then
go for that? I'm curious.
the school I went to was Full Sail University. They're based in Winter Park, Florida.
Oh, I
Yep.
have very good friends from Winter Park, Florida.
Oh, really?
Yes, they went
Yeah.
to Rollins College, which is also in
Oh,
Winter
okay.
Park, right?
Yeah.
But that's great. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, particularly these days, go into IT through gaming in some way or other because
Yeah.
everybody's growing up with it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then from there, I found that after I completed the courses and I was in job search, that I'd say the job culture in general was just not for me. It seems like people would take on roles and then the roles would stop and then they'd have to find new ones. And it was just
Mm,
very stop and go when it comes to the available positions. Like a person would work for a company for maybe a year and a half and then they'd stop and they'd have to find a new job. And
hmm
it was kind of like that for a big majority of at least the people that I was speaking to in the industry when I was doing things like networking with LinkedIn and stuff like that. So down the road, I decided that that probably wasn't the best option for me because I really want job security when it comes to a career like that. So the next thing I moved on to was software development. I actually went to an online program, a 6-month program for software development.
hmm
That was called Lambda. I don't know if you guys have heard of Lambda School or Lambda Academy of Computer
it's
Science
kind of
before.
similar to like a Galvanize or something.
Yeah,
You
it's like a
do like
boot
an
camp.
intensive, yeah, an
Yes. Yep.
intensive, yeah, and come
Yep.
out with a certificate or something. Yes, familiar with that
Yes.
concept. Hmm
And then in my time there, when we got to the application security portion of it, that's where I really got my introduction into digital security and cybersecurity, how to protect the applications that we were developing.
Uh-huh.
And that's what really sparked my interest in cybersecurity and took me on that path as my definite career path. Yeah.
Okay, so then if you were finishing up Lambda,
hmm
got interested in cyber, then how did you learn about NextGen T to
NextGen
then
T.
join their program?
Yes, so NextGen T, actually, I was doing some online research for security programs that included an ISA because I didn't have enough money for a full college tuition at the time. So
Hmm,
they had an income share agreement where you could complete the program and then pay them back afterwards.
okay.
And that's really what I grasped onto with NextGen T and why I chose them for my program. And then they introduced me to the Aries platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more. Now, are you still studying at NextGen T? Are you still in the middle of one of their programs? If so,
I've
which one?
actually completed their program and now
Okay.
I'm focusing on getting my Security Plus certification, which is
Okay.
actually going to be in about 14 days. I take that exam. So
Oh,
the
good
schooling is
luck.
done now. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So you took their cybersecurity engineering program?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And that was, I mean, you got the certificate coming
hmm
through their program and then did some
Yeah.
independent study for the CompTIA cert. And
Yep,
now
they
you're,
have like an introduction to the Security Plus exam on their portion, and then
okay.
I do my own studies afterwards. They have two of their own certifications that I've also earned through NextGen T, and then now I'm going for the CompTIA one.
So, what kind of job then will you start looking for? Do you hope to land as you finish this CompTIA certification? Is there a certain aspect of cybersecurity that you specifically want to try to go into?
Yeah, absolutely. My first entry into cybersecurity would be a security analyst. That's really what I'm trying to aim for first, and
Hmm
then I want to work on the defensive side for a couple years, and then move into red team down the line.
Oh,
But
great.
defensive security, absolutely at first.
Okay, wonderful. So tell tell me a little bit about where in your program at
Mhm,
NextGen T you encountered Project Aries,
mhm.
and what did you find of most value from using it?
Yeah, so during the first half, we were doing the introduction to cybersecurity, things like the foundationals, network overviews, and that kind of stuff. And then after we moved into the red teaming or the penetration testing portion of the classwork, they
Mhm.
gave us access to the cyber range so that we could get hands-on with all the things that we learned about and how to manipulate them and penetration test them and all that kind of thing. So it
So
really gave me like hands-on real world aspects as opposed to making my own labs with like things like virtual machines and trying to work with them that way. They were already mission ready and set up for me to do something. I didn't have to really think about how to set it up and then test it. I was able to just get in with the tools I learned and test it that way.
great. And is there any one particular, battle room or a mission or a cyber learning game that stuck
Yeah,
with you?
definitely, yeah. The Stop Terrorist Financing was a really fun room for me.
Okay.
It really felt like an actual mission that I was taking control of.
Uh-huh. Good.
That was a lot of fun. And then I can't remember of the game, but it had to do with memorizing port numbers. I
Yeah, we
can't
call
think
it
of the name of it.
port
Port
flow.
Flow, yes,
Yeah.
that one was a lot of fun. Port Flow was
Yeah.
great.
That one is cool because, even if you come in knowing the basic ports and protocols, testing yourself to get faster and faster at them and
Yes.
move up the levels of the game.
Yeah.
I find it entertaining when, you can take a skill that you're pretty good at, but continue to have fun with it, right? It puts a little bit of
Yeah.
into the work,
Exactly, yeah. It makes the
cybersecurity.
the boring learning portion a lot more entertaining
Yes.
and easy to retain.
Yes, great. All right. If you were, chatting, you mentioned you've done a fair bit of networking as you've made these kinds of career shifts. So if you were approached by somebody else who said, Robert, I'm
Mhm,
thinking about going into cybersecurity, do I go to class?
mhm.
Is it important to learn cybersecurity? What would you share with them?
I would say it's absolutely important to learn cybersecurity, especially these days. If I were to suggest between like a college degree or an online program, in my personal experience, I've had so much fun with my online learning that that's really what I would focus on every time. And specifically,
Mhm.
NextGen T was a really great program, and I would go through it two more times if they let me.
Yeah, yeah, great.
So that would be what I would recommend. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. That's excellent. And if you were talking to the next Gen T class that came up behind you, what kind of words of inspiration might you give to, other students who are trying to learn cybersecurity, which can be challenging?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that for any really complex topic, including cybersecurity, what you really got to do is one, have passion. If you don't
Yeah.
like the subject, you're not gonna sit through any lectures, boring or fun, and try to learn it. And then second is to break the larger concepts into smaller concepts and work your way up from there. That would be my advice, because then it doesn't seem so daunting
Uh,
and intimidating to new people being introduced to it.
Yes, that's great advice. Do you feel that since you had a degree in information technology and your
Hmm.
experience in the gaming industry,
Hmm.
do you think that that was, I'm sure that it helped you. Do you think it
Hmm.
was necessary and critical that people kind of have that IT background, or would you advise people that, even if they're interested in like they're interested in solving puzzles, they're
Hmm.
interested in, critical thinking and logical thinking, which are skills that you need in cyber, but maybe they don't
Hmm.
have the IT background. Would you encourage them to keep going or get started?
Oh yeah, absolutely I would. I don't really feel like there's, especially in technology, really anything that you can't start out from zero and learn completely. As long as it's interesting to you and you have access to material that you can use, you can absolutely start out as a beginner. You don't need to have any foundational skills already. If there's free resources you can find, there's paid resources you can find, you can start on YouTube. There's always a platform for you to start at, no matter where you are.
That's great. I get the sense of that too, but I think it's helpful for students to hear that from other students that they found that to
Absolutely.
be their journey.
Mhm.
When did you start to become interested in cyber?
Yeah, so I would say it was about a year and a half ago when I was about halfway through my software development courses I was going through. When we were first introduced to securing applications during development, that's
Mm,
really when it started. And then I kind of went on my own and learned for a little while until I found NextGen T,
yeah,
and then I started moving in with them.
that's great.
I do really enjoy the defensive side of cybersecurity. Right now, that's my favorite. I've got a little bit of a taste of both sides, the offensive and the defensive, and I'm really interested in how to stop attacks.
And
Of-
what I'll share this, Robert. What we find with, as we work with different people in all sorts of different roles in the cyber industry, is that
Mhm,
you mentioned eventually looking at doing some pen testing work, and even
mhm,
if you take some courses in, kind of the offensive side, and decide, oh no, that's not really for me, it's still
mhm.
super valuable learning to a defender, right?
Absolutely,
To
yes.
understand how the guy who's trying to hurt you might be thinking, guy or gal, might be
Mhm.
thinking, that makes you an even better defender. So I think you're
Absolutely,
smart
yeah.
to explore both sides
Right,
of
right,
that
right.
equation down the
Yep.
road. Excellent. In your note to Camilo, who I think reached out to you from Project Aries originally, you mentioned that you liked how interested and streamlined the missions were. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so every time I entered a mission, there was basically a briefing as to what was going on in the mission, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was step-by-step hints if you wanted to use them. You didn't have to use them, which I really liked because it allowed me to try to figure it out on my own first, and then if I couldn't, it gave me just enough info that I could move on to the next step and see if that was able to push me through. I really like how that was set up. You get more points for not using the hints, but you can also use them if it's going to help you push through. And each of the missions were segregated from each other. They weren't like, they weren't like getting mixed up with each other. I wasn't losing steps. The Athena tool within it was also very helpful. Every now and then I would find that there was one or two questions that she just wasn't quite understanding from me. That was
Mm-hmm.
really the only overall complaint I had.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens with AI, so it's
Yeah.
it's to be expected.
And we
Um,
continue to work to improve Athena, but
Exactly, yes.
it's an ongoing
But
challenge.
yeah, that's really my favorite part about it was it felt like I was playing a game, but at the same time doing real cybersecurity and
Excellent.
real like hands-on actual technology that I was interacting with. So it was a great mixture.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Yes.
We strive, in our jobs every day
Hmm.
to deliver that experience. And so
Yes.
we appreciate hearing back from a student that
Yes, absolutely.
that it's working. So Robert,
Hmm.
first let me thank you. I really appreciate the
Yes, thank you.
opportunity to talk to you. Appreciate your time today and wish you the very best of luck in 14
Yes,
days.
thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
Have a lovely weekend.